You're listening to the Dealer Playbook Podcast, episode 14, and today it's the Great Debate. Here we go.
You're dialed in to the Dealer Playbook Podcast, where it's all about winning auto dealer strategies that deliver proven results. And now your hosts, Robert Wiesman and Michael Cirillo.
All right, everybody, what is going on? Michael Cirillo here and Robert Wiesman. Robert, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great, Michael. How are you?
Fantastic. Episode 14, man. We are blasting these things out of there and, you know, have had such incredible guests in and out of the car business. If you haven't had a chance to listen to those, I'd go back, take a listen. There are so many power bombs. We say that word a lot throughout the episodes. If you're a seasoned listener already with us, you're going to hear that word a lot, power bombs, and you're going to hear the other word of nuggets, little chicken McNuggets, because they're bite-sized and they're tasty and they have a lot of value. And you know what? I don't care if you think that chicken McNuggets aren't tasty. They're absolutely tasty, and that's why we use that word. Today, you know, we thought we'd do something different because we've had so many incredible guests on the show. Grant Cardone is coming up in a future episode. Gary Vaynerchuk, Tracy Myers, so many incredible people. I'm going to try as hard as I can to say that I'm not excited about this episode because I know I say that every episode, and that's kind of the ongoing joke. But, you know, we really wanted to focus on a topic that we find is so important in doing business today online. You know, so Robert, you had actually made the suggestion. You said, "Hey, let's pull it back for, you know, kind of a selfie episode." And I mean, what were your thoughts? What was your thought process behind doing that?
Well, I enjoy the whole podcasting thing. Just, you know, from listening to so many podcasts on a weekly basis to the time that we spend together doing it. And it's just like when doing an interview show with two, you know what I mean, already with a co-host, and then you have your guest on, which adds a third person to the mix, and you're really trying to pack as much into the time, you know, to that
right.
a small frame of time as possible.
Yeah.
That you know, hell, man, I don't know about you guys. If you know me, I like to talk, man. I can keep it going for a while, and it's like Michael and I really wanted to, you know, just to spend some time with us, kicking some stuff back and forth, and talking about some topics that him and I talk about together so much offline. You know what I mean? Like non-recorded off air that. We're always like, man, we could turn one of these into a great podcast because there's value delivered. You know,
dude,
what I mean?
we'd have like 20 episodes between those, you know, just between you and I and those conversations.
Exactly. So we thought that we'd take a break and from some guests, and we'll do this every now and again. We have a lot of great stuff lined up, but we wanted to just roll into an episode of just me and Michael and deliver some value as always, and try to pack it as much into a small time frame because we know your time is valuable. We appreciate you know, taking the time to press the download button and, you know, putting us into your eardrums daily.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, the thing is that, like you said, we talk about this stuff so often. You know, Robert and I are responsible for launching some pretty aggressive campaigns in the industry because, you know, like we mention every now and again in the episodes, that we're so passionate about, you know, helping other people become successful and revealing, you know, the things that we find that work for us, or revealing the things that other experts and elite players in the industry are finding that work for them. There's so much information out there. There's so much knowledge out there that, you know, I'm speaking, you know, for you and me, Robert, but I feel like, you know, I feel a duty, an obligation to release the information and bring it to as many people as possible. Something that, you know, you and I talk about a lot in some of our debates, maybe we'll call this the Great Debate, but you know, something that we talk about, I just want to frame the stage here of where we want to go with this episode, because it's something that I think absolutely every dealership wants to learn more about, but perhaps hasn't received the information in the right sequence. And so what we want to talk about today is basically this. There's thousands of dealerships in North America today who are all struggling to hit their targets, whether it's sales targets, whether it's online marketing targets, conversion targets, whatever. And then on top of that, there's this massive overwhelming feeling of those that just, they know they need to do something, but perhaps don't know where to get started or how to get started. There's lots of people attending conferences. Danny Benitez talked about it, how to measure the ROI of attending a conference. And because really at the end of the day, all of the knowledge in the world doesn't make a hill of beans if you don't know how to apply it. I often say that knowledge is power until you know what to do with it and until you know how to take action with it. And so because there's so many dealerships out there that are struggling to do business online, we thought that we'd take some time today to really offer you some actionable information that we've found has worked so extremely well for us, and that I've found has worked so extremely well for me as I've built, my business, and as Robert has built his personal brand that so many of you know in great abundance. Okay, there's this misconception out there that things are moving so fast. And there's people out there that are willing to validate that for you. They say, man, things are moving so fast doing business online. There's no way to keep up. I mean, there's your website, YouTube, social media, email marketing, television, radio. It's difficult to identify which one's going to deliver the highest ROI. And so what happens is everybody just feels like they're surviving. They're just treading water when really they could be jumping on the jet ski that's just sitting right next to them and blasting through the waves. And so there's a lot of clutter out there that is leaving people overwhelmed because they don't know how to break through it online, especially. My forte is online marketing, and that's where I've found helping businesses, not just in the car business, but outside of the car business, to really thrive, to make their voice heard in a way that will bring them the greatest benefit to their business. Well, because things seem to be moving fast online, nobody's ever really asked, well, why is that? If I had to ask you, Robert, what do you think contributes to that feeling that things are moving so fast?
I think it's the abundance. Basically, the abundance of just, whether it's in 140 characters, whether it's an image, whether it's a video, whether it's, a Facebook post, a Facebook ad, whether it's, it's just the abundance. And then there's always things added to it. And you hear that, oh, this thing's working, or you feel that you should go and do something, and then you set it up and then you do it to a, a lower degree. I think the crowd is what makes people think it's moving too fast, and they're just not really getting, getting their grip, digging in. Yeah.
Well, and here's the thing, because I agree with that. I recently actually, I promise there's a point to this. I had a conversation with a woman who just turned 95 years old. And while we were talking, we were just kind of shooting the breeze. And then it kind of came to me. I'm like, you know what? This woman would have witnessed the invention or announcement of some pretty crazy things in her lifetime. So I asked her, I'm like, hey, so, what was probably the biggest thing that you can recall that was the most exciting, that seemed like the most revolutionary thing? And, her growing up in some small town here in Canada, she can remember when electricity came to her town.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, pretty crazy. She can remember when the first light bulb was installed in her house and just the impact that had.
Well, that was the culture shift of that era.
Exactly. But what that represented was all of a sudden now it was radio coming to her hometown. She remembers when radio arrived in her hometown, and then came television. And, all of those incredible communication mediums for that time replaced, another medium of communication. So, for example, there was newspaper, and then radio came in, and it almost at the time kind of replaced the need for advertising in a newspaper because you were able to reach so many more people. But, you know, she can recall, you know, getting washed up for bed and putting the pajamas on and laying on the, you know, her and her siblings and the neighbors all laying on the floor listening to a radio program. And, you know, if we see it in the movies and stuff like that, but the radio program would have like one or two sponsors, you know, this message is brought to you by Ovaltine, drink your Ovaltine or whatever. And then they would go into the program. Well, then look what happened. Those, like you said, those mediums became more abundant and more accessible. And with radio came more programs, which came more sponsors, which came more advertising. Then television and commercials started to really pick up. And all of a sudden what happened was there was this shift in, instead of just getting a lot of value that had a couple of advertisements, it actually became the advertisements that were framing in little nuggets of value. And so it's like you watch a TV program these days, and it's like 5 or 6 commercials for every 7 minutes or 10 minutes of program. And so it's the abundance of all of these communication mediums that I believe, I agree with you, has contributed to why the market seems so cluttered and why it might feel overwhelming to have your voice heard when so many other people are doing it. But here's something that I really want to draw your attention to, because as I've observed advertising, as I've observed marketing and the marketing mix and how it's being used, not just in the car industry, but outside the car industry as well, I think we could all agree that yes, there is now an abundance of advertising and marketing, but there are still only a select few who are getting it right. And so what I want to say is that it doesn't matter, and we should stop focusing on how much messaging and how cluttered the market is and start focusing on what we do and what we do extremely well. And I think you'll find that as you focus your attention in the right on the right position, you're going to realize that all of the crap, clutter, advertising, and marketing that's going out there can actually work to your ultimate advantage. Because if there is so much crap out there, you actually don't have to work that hard or move that far in the right direction to have a massive positive impact for your business.
You just got to move the needle a little bit above the crappy ones. That's it.
Exactly. And here's an example, okay?
That's the good news.
That's the good news. To stop focusing on all the crap and start focusing on the fact that instead of standing in this dark room with everyone else and not being able to stand out, start focusing on the fact that you're the only one that came prepared with a little flashlight and some AA batteries. Do you know what I mean? Because you turn that flashlight on, and now all of a sudden everyone's going to see you. And it was just as simple as holding the flashlight. And it's no different, right? Yes, okay, we all agree the market is cluttered, but it's cluttered with crappy marketing and crappy advertising. And so that makes it so much easier for your business to just, like you said, Robert, push the needle just a little bit to advance and conquer.
Well, let me ask you this, Michael. Let me bring this in. So I'm thinking of, where we talk before this, and we talk about how all the time we want to deliver something. We hope that somebody, just even if one person out of all the downloads gets something out of it, we feel it's a success for us. Mm-hmm. So let me ask you a question. So from a dealer standpoint, what if a lot of these guys aren't creating necessarily for their advertisements, the copy and this and that. They have a so-called advertising company, maybe, or whatnot, and they're writing the copy out for them because these guys deliver cars. They don't necessarily, create content.
Right.
What do they do? Do they just start then researching companies more and looking for who's known for doing that, or what do you suggest?
You know what I'm thinking? I'm thinking the first thing is, I hear what you're saying. So, I mean, I move metal. I don't create copy. I don't create messaging. I don't do any of that. So I'm going to hire an outside company to do all that for me. Instead of researching other companies out there, what you really need to do is research your own company and find out what actually makes you unique. Here's an example. I was speaking with a dealership from back east, New Jersey area, And they were looking at ways that they could, really pick up their socks and really dominate in their market. Well, I asked the question, what makes your dealership unique? And they said, can you guess it? 30 years, family owned and operated. Top
customers come first.
Yeah, all of the standard stuff, which you see on every dealer website, by the way, out there. And I said, no. What actually makes your dealership unique? And I said, what's cool? What stands out to you that makes you guys special? And you know what he told me? He told me the story about how with the big snowstorms that came through. Well, you're on the East Coast, and it was pretty incredible, horrendous winter, lots of cold, lots of snow. He talked about how the owner of the dealership, who I think is in his 70s or now, came to the dealership every single day and shoveled the walks, contributed, helped the team out. And I said, okay, stop there. Why? Why is the dealer principal, the owner of the dealership, coming to the dealership and helping shovel the walks? Well, he's so concerned about the safety of everybody coming here. And I said, well, why? Well, when he immigrated to the United States with, 25 cents in his pocket and worked his buns off and ended up buying a car and selling it and then buying 2 cars and selling it and so on and so on and so on, to the point where he actually bought a dealership and built a business for himself. He has this invested interest because he cares so deeply about, kind of this advance and conquer mindset that he feels an inherent duty and obligation and responsibility to make sure that the business that he worked so hard to build had delivered the experience that people should expect and that they deserve. And I said, boom. Okay, now let's talk about how to leverage that. That is a story that I will buy into. Why? Because if he cares that much about the stinking, shoveling the snow for customers to keep them safe, how much more does he care about me when I spend thousands of my hard-earned dollars to purchase one of his products? So instead of talking to an outside firm and saying, yeah, you take care of this, write us some compelling copy, spend some time and really discover what makes your dealership unique, and then convey that message to whoever is creating the copy for you, and let them know, here's what here's what my objective is. On top of that, I'd also add, kind of a side note, you need to consult with that agency or the person doing it for you to make sure that both of you are riding the same wave. Don't just toss it in their lap, because at that level of communication, they will never be able to achieve your objectives, and that doesn't give you much to quantify or measure, and you're always going to feel like you're never hitting your targets.
Yep. I mean, the storytelling right there is what people will see value in, not necessarily see value, though. There's still a sense of value there, but it's just the connection, and it's just the rapport too in that message right there when you present the story in that type of way, that it's and believe it or not, it's different. It's so simple because it's not. Doesn't take super creative to come up with the real story.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, look at you. Look at what you've been able to accomplish in the car business. Everybody knows who you are. But, what was it that, what was your thought process when you said, okay, there's 100,000 car salespeople in the United States.
I'll tell you right now, I didn't want to be, there's Robert Wiesman. He's just another car guy.
Okay, cool. So there was a driving force. Yeah. And I would think too, to not just blend in and be, like you said, just another car guy. I'm one of 100,000.
Yeah, like that was my nightmare, was to be considered just another one.
Well, this
is what I mean?
Yeah, and this is the perfect segue, because, we're talking about online marketing here. Marketing, what a lot of people don't get is that there is a difference between just advertising and marketing. In fact, marketing is the overlying picture. It's how we connect with the market. It's about finding your voice and conveying the right message at the right volume at the right time to a specific target audience. Okay. Where what we find is what contributes to the clutter is that people or dealerships don't invest their time in finding their voice and finding the message and finding the target audience. They just straight up go to the advertising. Okay, and it's not their fault. There's been a pattern that's led up to this, but it's funny because you needed to do something to differentiate. And that's what we're talking about. When I built my business, I needed to do something to differentiate. But what's happening is everybody is contributing to the same clutter and wondering why it doesn't set them apart. So imagine, just before we hit record here, we were talking about this, and I said, imagine someone walking up to you, because this is essentially what we see happen on Facebook and Twitter every single day. Somebody walks up to you, and without a hello, without anything, they just yell at you. Great ride. Only one owner, local, driven, alloys, tilt, cruise, must see, only $39,995. Imagine, right? Imagine how bizarre that would look in the real world if somebody did that to you. For me, I'd want to punch him in the face. But so why is that acceptable? And why is that the majority of what we see pouring out from dealerships, whether it's on social media, YouTube, their website, yada, yada, yada? People are jumping right to the advertising and forgetting about the marketing. So I think what we should do is just talk about the difference between the two and what we have found makes great marketing and also what we've found creates great advertising. Okay. So I already touched on the first one that I think is so important. Great marketing is all about finding your voice. It's your story. It's about your value. And then it's about conveying that message at the right volume and at the right time to a very specific target audience. I mentioned this to you before. It's about being something valuable to somebody, not worthless to everybody.
To everybody, yeah.
Those are, I've added 2 words in there because I can't take any credit for coming up with it's about being something to somebody and nothing to everybody. Mm-hmm. But I add those 2 words and all of a sudden it expands the understanding. It's about being something valuable to somebody, not worthless to everybody. Look at OEMs, okay? They know who their target audience of every vehicle they produce is. They have a buying profile for each customer and they align it with their vehicles and with their products because it's creating the path of least resistance to get people to purchase them, right? Think about the last, Ford F-150 or Ram 1500 commercial or billboard or something that you've seen, right? Think about what setting the vehicle is placed in. When you see those F-150 commercials and the Ram 1500 commercials, what setting is the vehicle in? They're hauling a load. Yeah. They're in the farmland. They're at the work site, the construction site. They're in the mountains.
Yeah.
Do you honestly think that vehicle from a buyer profile that the OEM has created was meant for the 2 dudes in the wife beaters blasting the techno music driving down the street like sometimes we see? No, that person didn't actually meet the buying profile, but I'll tell you what they did meet. They met the idea of wanting to feel like the buying profile for that vehicle. In other words, those vehicles, who they market those vehicles to, are the man's man. The construction, get my hands dirty, go flipping drive out into the mountains with nothing but some duct tape and like an old spoon. And so that's why they buy into that, which leads me to my second point, because great marketing is emotional, right? You create an emotional attachment to it, or the idea of what that vehicle will make you feel like. The OEMs, the marketing companies that work with the OEMs are genius because they spend a lot of time on this. They spend millions of dollars trying to make sure that the vehicle is put in the right setting, that speaks to the right person, that triggers the right emotional response so that the right person purchases the vehicle.
That is one thing that, in my opinion, that the OEM does do well in that type of in that aspect. They're a lot responsible for the price game, the price driven consumer. I'll say that because they're always talking pricing and cheap. It's the employee pricing and all that, you know, but they do well with the setting and knowing who the target, who's supposed to be buying this car is what they do. And then they show up in that person's stream, wherever that stream is.
Exactly. That's exactly my point. So why don't we take what's already, you know, why don't we leverage what's already been created for the dealership and utilize it and say, oh, how come all I'm doing then is red tag days, employee pricing events, $77 clunker deal, buy this vehicle, $39,995, or we just got a fresh stock of BMWs. Come check them out. They won't last long. You know what? They absolutely will last long, because if that's the only kind of advertising or marketing that you're doing and you're not building a relationship and creating an emotional attachment to a specific
no sense
targeted
of urgency for anybody to jump
exactly.
to that.
So, I mean, here's the thing, right? So I think we all get this. It's no coincidence that to the reason why those vehicles are depicted in the settings that they are. It's designed that, you know, those commercials and those billboards are designed in a way to demonstrate how that particular vehicle can solve a specific problem or provide an answer to a question. You can't do that, and you can't create an emotional response to somebody if you're not talking to the right people. And you're never gonna, you know, push the needle if you keep trying to talk to everybody instead of trying to speak the right language to the right people, right group. It's like the Volkswagen Bug. You know, come on, let's talk about the target audience of this thing. Is it a coincidence that there's like a little vase for you to put a flower in right next to the steering wheel?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, I mean, we look at those things, and it's because there's elements that make great marketing. It's about building a relationship with the right people.
And as consumers, you know, you, me, you know, you listening, it's, you know, we don't care about the company. You know what I mean? They don't care about, you know, and from the salesperson standpoint, dealership standpoint, they don't care about your dealership. They really don't care about your product either. They care about themselves.
Exactly.
And it needs to show what's in it for them. What's it do for them? And something in it for them is not saying that you know what I mean? What's in it for them to watch you is, you know, you communicating to them with something of value, something that enhances their life, their experience in any way.
And that's what everyone's looking for. They are looking for information, content, messaging, vehicles, products, services, it doesn't matter, that will enrich and enhance their life. Right? If I'm a farmer and I see a Ram 1500 or 2500 or 3500 hauling a load of hay, and I'm looking at my 1979 pickup that's barely, you know, I can barely turn it on. Well, guess what? That thing's speaking to me. That's a choir singing to me in the right tone about something that's going to solve a problem for me.
And that guy might not have never even been in the funnel at all at that point in time, seeing that type of marketing, because that just sparks it. Seeing the truck sitting there on a even like in a print media, let's say we're talking the Farmers, unless you're putting an ad on farmersonly.com, the Farmers exclusive dating site. Not a sponsor or affiliated with the show in any way.
Right.
But, you know, if you're putting it in print media, even something like that, you put a bunch of hay, if you can't get any stock photo or something, put a bunch of hay in the back of one of your own, snap that photo, get a professional photo of it and use that as like your marketing ad.
Yeah.
In a certain publication that goes just to farmers.
Yeah.
You know, probably cheap to get into. And yeah, the circulation isn't going to be the type of circulation, the type of circulation you get on some of your other media, but you're getting circulation that for the right people.
For the right people.
The exact people that are you know, who that message is for.
Absolutely. And I mean, don't forget, we're not just talking about speaking to one group of people at one time. We're talking about finding the right message for multiple groups of people at the right time so that you don't feel like there's going to be a drop in the results that come. What I will tell you is this is exactly, with this level of marketing, this is exactly how you see higher quality leads, not higher quantity leads. But I'll tell you what, if you can get higher quality leads to take action and move through your funnel, your ROI will increase because you're not wasting so much time on pointless opportunities, and your cost per lead acquisition will go down. I mean, we've talked about in previous episodes about how expensive it is to acquire new customers. The reason, folks, okay, everyone listening, if now's the time to start taking notes, it's right now, okay? This is the time. The reason it is so expensive to acquire new customers is because you are being nothing of value to anybody. So start being something of value to a specific group of people and do that for multiple groups of people, okay? Let's move on to advertising, okay? We've talked a lot about marketing. A recap, marketing is the right message at the right time, at the right volume to the right group of people. It's the relationship builder. I call it BRTing, build relationships of trust. When you build a relationship of trust, you can encourage people through the buying cycle so much faster and shape their purchase decisions, okay?
Yep, and they pay you more, send you referrals,
exactly,
all the good stuff.
Exactly. Yeah. So I don't talk about this a lot, but I actually came from the advertising world. We had an automotive magazine, which was one of those standard, picture price. It's like 18 cars on a page with the price, with the, the short form description, air tilt cruise, blah, 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 blah. But as I was working for that magazine, I started to consult with the dealers and say, look, there is a very, very small margin of consumers who are actually at the point of the purchase process or the purchase cycle where they're concerned about the price. And if you and all of your competitors are in a magazine or in a newspaper where everyone's doing the same thing, how are you actually making an impact to the point where people are going to take action? If all of you are picture price advertising, where's the value?
Yeah. What's sparking someone to really take any action at all?
Exactly. So the first thing for me I wanted to really touch on was what makes great advertising. In my opinion, great advertising is memorable. And the reason I refer to picture price marketing or picture price advertising, is because there's nothing memorable about it. Troy Spring talked about it. There's no hook. There's no call to action. There's no message urgency, or captions. No urgency. Nothing. It's just a picture of a vehicle and a price. And you're speaking to very, very, very few people. And this is, again, what contributes to spending more to acquire new customers. But great advertising is memorable. Again, just prior to us hitting record here, I was talking to Robert about 20 years ago when I was in the 8th grade. I don't know if your school was the same, but mine, they'd hand out these like day timers at the beginning of the year, like a planner. It had your agenda and calendars and all those sorts of things in it. And I still remember there was it was Mothers Against Drunk Driving who sponsored an ad that went on the back cover of our planner. And it was this red, you could tell it was a red sports car. Might have been a Lamborghini or a Ferrari or something like that.
Of course.
Right? But it was all mangled to bits. It was like, it just looked like a tin can with some tires. You could see the emblem of the vehicle. And the caption was, "This vehicle still turns heads." Okay, and again, the advertiser was Mothers Against Drunk Driving, and it was an ad for, hey, don't drink and drive. Don't be a moron. Don't drink and drive, because guess what? This is what this is what could happen to you. Well, think about it. That was an ad. It was an ad from Mothers Against Drunk Driving, and still 2 decades away,
20 years ago,
20 years ago,
about it today.
I still remember the exact caption, the exact image, and the exact advertiser. So great advertising is memorable. I also think that great advertising grabs your attention. Okay, so using the same example, not only was that Mothers Against Drunk Driving, and again, they're not sponsors of the podcast or anything, but not only was it memorable, but it made me look twice. It made me look 3 times and 4 times. It caused me to talk with my friends and show my friends about it and show my parents. It caught my attention to the degree that the message was burned into my skull so that I wouldn't forget it. I mean, we're talking 20 years.
Did you sit in a protest or anything like that with the Mothers Against Drunk Drivers 20 years ago?
No, man, I
didn't.
I didn't, but I just remember first day of school, and I'm, oh, cool, I got a planner, and I flipped to the back page, and I'm like, whoa, what is this? So the question you can ask yourself at your dealership is, have I done anything that's memorable, or will people just see this and forget about it the second they turn the page, or the second that the radio commercial's over, or the second that the pre-roll video is done on YouTube, or the banner ad disappears, or I click to a different page? If the answer is no, I probably wouldn't remember that, then it's back to the drawing board. It's time for you to start conveying an accurate message to either your internet department, who is responsible for the ad, or for the agency who created that ad for you, and say, you know what? What's the objective here? Because I don't think we're fulfilling it.
And here's a quick chicken McNugget for you in regards to that. That if you want to try to, I think if you can, I really think that a lot of you can come up with some great stuff organically. I think you sit down and you really think about it. But listen, think of how many people work in a dealership, and like you could be like, yeah, what do they know about marketing, this and that? Well, you don't have to bring them in and tell them to give you input. Just ask them what they think about it, or get their, does this hit home to you at all, or what do you think when you see this? And just get insight from, think of that. Am I wrong, Michael? All those people that you have access to in there that you can get their opinion on something. Especially if any of them are who that message is for too. If they fit that, the message at all. Do you think they should get their input? That's an easy way to test the.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? The question, what do you think about this? If you're showing them something, it needs to be framed in with, hey, Robert, my objective, what we're trying to accomplish is this. Can you take a look at this ad or this message or this Facebook post and tell me what your gut reaction is now that you know what the objective? Then they can give you a more honest opinion. Oh, well, if you're trying to go for that, I was actually thinking this when I read it, or I was thinking this when I saw it.
Or get the objective after it, because anybody looking at it's not going to know that, doesn't necessarily know the objective of the ad or the post or whatever going into it. So let me ask you this, Michael, because I know we're rolling down a little bit, and we already have another episode on slate to go in between this one and then the next one. But what do you say? What would you say if you and me regroup? Because we did a lot about the why today and the bigger picture, but I think that with you and I, we can really dig down and give them ideas on content, on marketing, and on advertising, as far as how inspiration for coming up with outside the box ideas on both. What do you think?
No question. I think, the most important or crucial aspect of coming up with a winning strategy, whether it's advertising, marketing, sales, whatever, is always to have someone that you can bounce ideas off of or get more inspiration from. And this is where we thrive. This is our niche. We love this stuff, and we're helping so many businesses, so many dealerships create these strategies that absolutely, I think it's a no-brainer for anyone who wants to hear more about this. They should definitely leave their questions and comments in the show notes, or in the comment section below the show notes on the dealerplaybook.com website. That way we have a better idea too on which direction we can go. We want to see, I'd love to learn more about, hey, here's the thing that's on my mind the most right now. everything you guys have talked about has resonated with me. I do feel like the market's cluttered. I don't know how to find my voice, or whatever it might be. And then we can really hone in another episode in the future about talking specifically about that stuff.
There you go, guys. Listen, you're taking the time out, and there's so many of you. Listen, we have access to analytics, so we know you're there. So take the time. Go to the dealerplaybook.com and engage. Just take the time out, because it's only going to help you, because that's who it's for. It's going to help us because it's going to give us idea of a direction, and we appreciate it, but it'll help you and it'll help your colleagues, etc. And that's what it's all about.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, and listen, so I hope this all helped you. I mean, I feel like this is such an important topic, especially as we continue to advance in the digital age. We want you to thrive, not just tread water, not just survive. But I'll tell you what, we'd also love to actually meet you in person. There's a couple of places where you'll be able to catch up with us. We'd love to see you and shake your hand and collaborate with you in person. Right off the top of my head, I know you and I, Robert, we're gonna be kicking back at the Internet Battle Plan in Seattle. That's coming up in August, so we'd love to see you there. And also, we're going to be blasting it out in Boston in September for the Internet Sales 20 group. But you know, we love sitting down with dealers in person. I mean, the podcast, absolutely, we love it, but we'd love to sit with you in person as well and strategize with you and help you come up with ways to definitely, absolutely, without a doubt, true, brewed, and tattooed, advance and conquer.